everybody, my name is Jo and I love to read. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my May and June reading wrap up. Now I'm not entirely sure the books that I'm talking about, whether I've got them all or I'm in the right order at all, because I've stopped recording as much on StoryGraph Goodreads and my reading spreadsheet. So I was using them to say when I had started a book, and now because especially after baby over this last year I have, wow, because it's been like an entire reading year since I had the baby, end of May. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I would dip in and out of books, and so I'm a lot more, now because my time is a lot shorter, it's harder for me to push through books as quickly if I'm not enjoying it. But I'm also, I kind of get a sense of, because I have less time to read them, sometimes I'm finding I'm not wanting to abandon them forever, just for the time being while they're a bit slow, and then pick up where I was, get a bit further, maybe I keep going. The first book that I finished is a manga, and it's the start of a new manga series, which is Snow White with the Red Hair, Volume 1 by Sorata Akiduki. It was really cute, really super fun. So it's about a woman who has red hair. I don't know where the Snow White thing came from. I think it was just the author was writing this just for fun to begin with, and that's what she decided to call her. Snow White itself doesn't, I don't think at this point in time, doesn't really come into play. But anyways, so it's about this main character hero, who I forget her name, Shirayuki. Thanks for the back of the book. Shirayuki, she is super famous for her red hair. In the kingdom that she was born into, the prince decides that he wants to possess her, and not as a wife, but he wants her as like a concubine or just his because of her red hair. She don't want this. Shirayuki is awesome. She knows what she wants. She's a herbalist. She decides to run away and runs into this dashing, handsome stranger and these two other friends of his, and they help each other out at the beginning, and then as they learn to trust each other, all in the course of 12 hours, she learns that he's the prince of the neighboring kingdom that she's run away to, but he's so good. This is just, I don't know if you would call it fluff, like probably, but it's just, it's, you know, it's that fantasy of meeting the prince and you don't know that he's a prince yet and you become friends and then, oh my god, he is, and you're so special to the prince. So for me, it plays into the whole, you're an ordinary girl, but you're special to royalty, and in the right way, because that, you know, the other prince at the beginning was horrible. This one actually values her as a friend and a person and everything. So I really enjoy this. At the moment, where we've ended this volume is that Shirayuki is studying to be a herbalist at the, so she is already a herbalist, but to become, or she was studying to be a herbalist or something, but she's doing these exams to become like a castle herbalist apprentice. So that's what she's doing at the moment, and it's super fun. There's these escapades with her and the prince, and I'm just really like hoping that a romance develops. Like, I feel like that's where we're heading, but I haven't read a lot of manga at all to know whether this kind of thing, like to know whether I'm picking up on the signals enough that they are going to have a romance or not. So yeah, really excited, and I don't know when I'll be reading the next one of this, because it's not something that I think about all the time, but if I feel like I'm enjoying nothing and I really want something to pick me up, then I'll get the next volume. The next book, or another book that I finished, is The Rush by Prak. This is a thriller by an Aussie author. I had a lot of fun reading this one. I actually got it from my local indie bookstore with a gift voucher that I got for Christmas off my grandparents. This is super cool. I actually went in there looking for a thriller, and I'm so glad I picked this one up. It's got 2 elements of the thrillery thing in it. So first there's the storm, which is the part that I really find fascinating, that for me kind of set it apart from the rest of the thrillers there, that it takes place during a storm. But the thrillery part is that there's this woman that drives past and there's like a dead body by the side of the road. That's the prologue. But then we jump into it, and it's actually about, the main story is about 4 students, 2 of which are Australian uni students and 2 of which are overseas. The 2 Aussie uni students advertise to find someone to do a trek with them from Adelaide, South Australia, up the guts of Australia to Darwin in the Northern Territory. And it is across absolute Australian outback. You can see in the picture there, that's literally where they're traveling, and some of the most remote places in Australia. I just feel like the characters in this were absolutely spot on. What I loved about it is, for me, it really struck a chord. One of the people that they hire is an activist who's from overseas, and she's traveled like lots of different places in Australia, and she meets these uni students and is a bit flawed that she knows more about their own country than them. So typical for us young people to have barely seen our own country. It's massive. That's the other thing that I feel like is not always taken into account, that we have a massive country. But it's just so funny because we can be so disinterested with the surroundings around us and do lots of other overseas holidays before we actually check out our own country. So I just found like the characterizations of these 4 young people was just really good. And then I loved that the activist that I'm talking about, she's appearing all like worldly, that she knows what's going on and everything like that, but then when push comes to shove, she ends up just being an ordinary girl. And it was an interesting dynamic where the main Aussie chick is feeling bad and like less superior to the activist chick because she's a bit like, oh, well, you know, you're doing good things for the environment and I'm barely doing anything, and you know, rah, 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 so I don't feel the same league as you, and the activist was feeling a bit superior. But then when it kind of came down to it, when their lives were on the line, things kind of even out. I had a really great time with this book. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It was a really good thriller. I don't know much about thrillers. Take this with a grain of salt because I don't read them all the time. But for me, it was super fun. I wouldn't be able to identify when things are necessarily cliche or overdone because I barely read thrillers, but I had a really good time with this one anyways. And if you're looking for some good Aussie outback and imagery, this is the one to pick. Next one I read was a comic, Sonic the Hedgehog Volume 1, and this is the IDW version. So the cool thing about this is I'm actually reading something with Daniel, which is super fun. Daniel, my husband, he doesn't read books, but he loves stories and storytellings. I said to Daniel, if I bought you a Sonic comic, would you read it? And he said, yeah, I'll give it a go. And it actually really surprised him how much he enjoyed it. And so we were kind of talking about it together, and he really wanted me to like read it and experience it too. And I said, yeah, I'm game. So long story short, we've decided now that we're actually going to be reading a comic series and slash or manga series or a manga series at a time together. So we're starting with Sonic. This first volume was very much like an introduction kind of one. I don't know whether having started with the original Sonics might be a bit better, because at the moment, like, I know who Sonic is because of Daniel, and I've watched like some of the TV shows and some of the movies. Can't say I'm super interested at this stage, and not a lot of character development happens in this one, I don't think. The main thing though is that Amy the Hedgehog, the pink one, I don't know if it's portrayed in any other stuff or it's just the impression that I've got, but I thought that she was someone who was following after Sonic, and he was like, ah ha ha, I'm a cool guy and I'm not into you. But then I thought that she was desperately following after him and was holding on and was refusing to take no as an answer. What did surprise me presently in this one is that Amy definitely lets Sonic know that she's interested, but she's her own person. And when he says no to whatever she was offering him, which is not romance based, she offered to him, come on this mission with me. And when he said no, she was like, okay, cool. And he was like, but you can come with me. So I liked that he was interested in her as a person, but then she said, no, what I'm doing is important to me too, so catch around. And the last 2 things I am going to talk about that I read is Saga's Volume 4 and 5 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I didn't tell you who Sonic the Hedgehog was by. Saga, Flynn, Yardley, Thomas, Hernans, and Stanley. So lots of people. I'm probably not going to remember all those, but I could try. Anyways, back to Saga. So I read Volume 5. I got them both in the mail. This one ended on a cliffhanger and this one ended up on an even worse cliffhanger. So I really enjoyed these. This really pulled at me a lot with the voiceovers, because so throughout this whole comic series, their young daughter Hazel, that basically the series is based on them trying to keep her alive and live as a family, narrating the story for you, but we still see lots of not suitable for work stuff. But she dropped us a cliffhanger in her voice narrations and I was like, oh my god, no, don't tell me. It turns out it was true, but not in the way that I'd thought. Thank God. So I was really glad to keep reading this one. And then we ended on an even worse cliffhanger here, but I mean, time has passed, so I'm not as sad about them. I do want to still continue them, but I don't have money to purchase any more, and I have so many books now, it's crazy. Highly, highly continue to recommend Saga, and the only thing that I'm gonna say briefly is that I am still working on this book here. I'm having a good time with this. Mild spoilers because I'm going to talk about character names, but I'm not going to actually say anything that is happening, just how I feel about them. But if that's a spoiler for you, because it would be a spoiler for me. I was really excited for this volume to have Tyrion in it because the previous one didn't at all, just the way that George R. R. Martin wrote these this time. I gotta say, I'm not a fan of his character at the moment. It seems like Tyrion without a purpose turns into an absolute asshole, creep, horrible, drunken human being. So I'm looking forward for him to have a bit more purpose again. He's slowly getting it, but I was so excited to read his point of views, and now I'm like, these are like nearly my least favourites. John, I'm really loving. He had a super powerful scene in this one, was super good. Daenerys, I'm still like a bit, in the original, like in the first 1 and maybe 2, I think. My memory's a bit vague on that. I really love Daenerys' point of view. lately though, she's being a real snooze. And I'm kind of feeling like a lot of her stuff is a bit pointless at the moment, maybe in this times of experience, but I'm really, like, I'm curious in one way to see what happens, but at the moment it's just a bit like, come on, hurry up. Anyways, having a great time with this. I'm going to go. This was supposed to be a quick wrap up. It's been 20 minutes. Hopefully I can edit it down. Thank you guys so much for checking out my channel, and if you made it to the end of the video and you don't know what to comment, please comment a animal emoji, and I will talk to you guys in my next video.